What is up, guys? Welcome back to the latest episode of Chatter from the Cheap Seats. My name is Jack Feldman. My co-host sitting over here's name is Sammy Krimpstein. Sammy Morris Krimpstein, to be exact. No, I got to sneak it in there. Sammy, how you doing?
I'm doing very good. I think Jack got his actually before mine, but this weekend I got my first dose of the COVID vaccine, which was I went to M&T Bank Stadium, so it's my first time back inside a sports venue since like 2019. So that was great. Just being in there, and I got my dose, and I'll go back for my second one at some point, in May. So soon enough, I'll be fully vaccinated, and that's a great feeling. I'm sure for you too, Jack, right?
Great feeling. How is M&T Bank Stadium? So you, like, when you say you were inside the stadium, were you like in like the concourse, or where
Yeah.
were you?
So we went in the main entrance, which is like the concourse area. We waited there. We were walk-ins, so we were just kind of waiting. And they let us in. They take the first 200 people. So yeah, I got there early enough, and we just had to wait in line for a while. I actually pulled out. I don't know if you're familiar with the 9 innings baseball game on the phone, but I pulled that out, and that's a surprisingly good game. I played that for a while just while I was waiting in line, and then they took us up into like the upper concourse area, which is like inside. That's where they gave us our dose. But it was really well run, and I got out of there in like 2 hours. So that was
So, okay, that's awesome. I was thinking
yeah.
it would have been cool if like you were on the field. I'm like,
That would be
because that's what I was picturing at first when they said
nah.
that, like
No,
they were going to
that was
have the vaccines in different stadiums. I was thinking it'd just be a long line of people
on the field.
right up on the
That'd be cool.
field.
Although I have been
Tables.
on the field at M&T Bank Stadium.
Have you?
Yeah, because my parents work in video production, and they had a thing with Justin Forsett. I don't know if you remember him, but he was like the running back for the
Yep.
Raiders, and uh, they let me go along with. So I got to play catch with Justin Forsett, like on the field.
That's pretty cool.
That was an experience. I mean, that was like, and then we got to go in the locker rooms, and like it was. I'm not a Ravens fan, so I did feel a little guilty about it for all my friends that were Ravens fans, but that was an experience.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just so fun. But Jack, do you remember that game when we played when we were kids? It's like a board game. It's called Guess Who, right?
Sammy, I was just about to make a transition because you mentioned 9 innings. So I was going to say, Sammy, remember, I was like, Sammy, 9 innings is a good game. You know what else is a good game? Guess Who? But you stole my thunder.
I stole Jack's thunder, but yes, Guess Who it was a fun game, and I'm gonna play it with Jack here today. So I have a player in my mind, and I'm gonna give Jack a few hints, a few stats, and Jack's gonna try and guess who it is. And yeah, so this is a relief pitcher.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you his stats since September. Right?
It's definitely gonna be like an obscure relief pitcher for the Cubs. Can I make a guess? Can I make a guess before any statistics are shown?
Oh God.
Is it Craig Kimbrel?
It is Craig Kimbrel.
It is? That's insane. That's
my God. Not go over this before the show. But okay.
That's ridiculous.
The point of me putting this in the show was, and we'll talk about how bad the Cubs have been offensively, but Craig Kimbrel has been really good. 12 innings pitched since last September. In those 12 innings, no walks, no home runs, no runs given up, a negative FIP, which is obviously first among relievers, and a 57.9 strikeout rate. I think that's 22 strikeouts he has in those 12 innings, which is second among relievers, only to Aroldis Chapman. So that's interesting. But I mean, Kimbrel is really kind of having a resurgence, and the Cubs bullpen's looking to be pretty good. But we'll talk later in the show about their offense.
Okay, Sammy, we can't just gloss over this. I mean, that's incredible what I just did. That's incredible.
Oh, just guessing Craig Kimbrel or Craig Kimbrel?
Yes, that shows the audience how well I know Sammy. That I just knew immediately that was Craig Kimbrel. No,
yeah, that's pretty impressive. Wow. I have to say, I mean,
that might be the most impressive thing that's ever happened on the show. I think that is. That's by far.
That was a random guess too. I mean, could have been a lot of Cubs relievers, and I do want to show people that I think a lot of people obviously were hating on Kimbrel when he was having historically bad numbers in those first few outings of last year. But, since September, he has been lights out for the Cubs. And if I'm a, hitter in the league, Craig Kimbrel's the last reliever I would want to face right now. I mean, that fastball's working like it used to. I mean, it has that like Magnus effect going up sort of thing that it used to do when he was really in his prime. And then his curveball. I mean, he's really a two-pitch guy, right? Fastball, curveball, and they're both working very well. So that's been fun to watch. But let's actually start with the Cubs here because Jack, I'll let you go through the 1 minute recap of some things that have happened this week, but then we can kind of go in depth with the Cubs offensively because I have a lot of words and frustration for because it's been rough here in the early going first 10 games. So I'll let Jack go first. He's going to recap these first or the second week of baseball that we've had.
Yes, we have the recap of the second week of baseball. Starting off, the Nats snapped their 5-game losing streak as they get Schwarber and Josh Bell in the lineup for the first time. The big free agency additions, Braves versus Phillies, Sunday Night Baseball, horrific call, worst call all season. One of the worst calls that I can remember in recent history, and especially the part where they have it on challenge, like they have it on replay, and they still can't get it right.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
It makes no sense because generally, if you're looking at something in slow motion, you tend to get it right, and they didn't, which is odd. It's odd.
Oh, yeah. That was very interesting.
Hitting woes continue. Not fun times for Sammy Krimpstein.
Not fun times. No.
Musgrove, Joe Musgrove with a no-hitter. His slider was absolutely filthy. It looked just like magic out there. It didn't look real. It looked like he was playing with a wiffle ball. The Red Sox win 7 straight after being swept by the O's. Are they what Sammy predicted they will be? I don't think so, Sammy. That was a wild prediction.
It was. We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. And then finally, should the A's be worried about their 3-7 start? Sammy, let's start off at the top. The Nats snapped their 5-game losing streak. What do you have to say about this?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty rough stretch of games. They won opening day and then you lose the next 5, but it wasn't really their fault. I mean, maybe their fault for getting COVID, but all of their new additions, right? John Lester had COVID, Kyle Schwarber, Josh Bell, their big additions could not play to open the season. That's not what you want to open the season, especially when your first or second series of the year, second series, I believe, is against the Dodgers, and they could hardly put up any runs. I mean, not to their fault. I mean, when you're facing Buehler and Kershaw and Bauer, I'm not exactly who they faced, but everyone in that Dodgers rotation is someone to be feared. So I think as a Nats fan, you snapped the streak last night, and that's huge. I don't think you should really have to worry about this skid that much. I mean, 3 of the 5 games were within 2 runs, so they're playing close ball games. And like I said, they're very diminished right now. A lot of their guys had COVID. It was really just the offense that was struggling those first few games. But like I said, when you're playing the Dodgers, it's going to be like that. I think now anything's easier than the Dodgers. So the schedule's going to get slightly easier. And I think with guys coming back, Bell and Schwarber, like you said, just came back yesterday. So that's huge. And I think the Nationals will get right back on track. And we're not going to talk about this too much, but the Braves are cold offensively. And these other teams in the NL East, it's a great opportunity for them to capitalize and get in front here in this NL East race, because we all know that this is going to be a competitive division. Really 5 teams that could possibly win it, with the Marlins pitching really well here to start the year. So for me, I wouldn't really worry about this losing skid for the Nationals. Now that they're getting their main guys back from COVID, they're going to be right back on track, and it's a good opportunity for them to capitalize in this division.
Now, here's the thing. Normally, I would not be concerned. We don't want to overreact. It's been the season started April 1st. We're recording this on
so we're like 2 weeks in.
13th. It's been 13 days, literally. So, we don't want to overreact. However, when you're in a really good division like the NL East, things are going to move more fast-paced. You don't have time to go on that 2-week losing skid, 3-week losing skid, because that eventually turns into mid-July and you're down 5 games in the division and you're trying to crawl yourself out of the hole that you dug for yourself. So right now, not concerned, but that can change real fast when you're in a division like the NL East.
Yeah, and let's move on here down our little list. Braves and Phillies, we talked about this a little bit, but it was that call. Alex Baum was sliding in there. It was a end of the game, and it was pretty clear that he was out. We all saw it as fans. The fans at the ballpark seemed to think that. Even Baum seemed to think that after the ball game, because he was asked in an interview, and he was like, "Hey, they called me safe. That's all that matters." So they obviously got the call wrong. Do you think, and after the challenge, like you said, so do you think this is an issue that MLB has to fix? I mean, it doesn't happen too much, but what do you think MLB does, the league does, to prevent these kind of things from happening?
I mean, I don't know what you can really do to prevent this thing from happening because it's just incompetence on the umpires part. It's sort of like they had every opportunity to make the right call. They had the replay. They had a wide variety of angles and they still couldn't get it right. And this kind of reminds me, which doesn't relate to this, like it's not about the Phillies Braves game, but it's important. This kind of reminds me about the Mets when Michael Conforto leaned into that pitch and you could see it clear as day on replay that should not have been a hit by pitch. It should have been a strike. But
Oh, yeah,
they're not allowed to challenge that, which makes no sense. I don't understand. I get balls and strikes, but outside of balls and strikes, if you can see clearly on replay that the call on the field is wrong, I don't understand why you can't challenge that. Because it just
yeah.
does that make sense to you, Sammy?
No, well, especially in high leverage situations, like maybe if it's the first inning and someone gets hit and it's questionable, like a manager probably wouldn't even want to challenge that. But at the end of a game, I mean, who knows? The Mets, we were talking about the NL East is going to be an extremely competitive division. And they won that game, but that was the Phillies they were playing, I believe, right? That could cost the Phillies a playoff spot down the road, which is huge. And that's why I think a lot of these calls should get challenged because umpires are human. They're going to make mistakes, and we have to be able to give them a chance to look back at it, have other people look at it, and sometimes even they get that wrong, like in this Braves Phillies situation. But Phillies have been on the wrong end, or I guess they're on the right end of a call on Sunday Night Baseball and on the wrong end of a call against the Mets. But let's continue now, and I already got into this a little bit, but it's been a rough week for me as a Cubs fan, I'll say. We lost a series to the Pirates, and we lost game one of a series to the Brewers last night. And the pitching has been pretty average, nothing spectacular, but the offense has been historically bad. And before I have Jack say some things about this, maybe see what he has to think as a non-Cubs fan, I'll go through some of these stats because it's pretty ridiculous. So the Cubs' 49 hits through 10 games is the lowest in any 10-game stretch in franchise history since 1901. Not just the first 10 games. Any 10-game stretch. And the only team, I think, to hit worse than that in the past 20 years or so was the Detroit Tigers sometime in the early 2000s. That year, Jack, they won 43 games.
That's not a
So
lot
not
to do.
not good company the Cubs
No
are in right
bueno.
now. And in terms of their other stats, 164 average as a team, 30th in the league, 264 on base percentage. There are teams that are hitting higher than the Cubs are getting on base. Probably a lot of teams, to be honest. That's last in the league. They're only slugging 321, which is last in the league. Their offensive WAR is negative, negative 0.2, 30th in the league. And when you dissect this and look at what's happening, the Cubs are not making contact in the strike zone, not making contact at all. They're the lowest contact rate in the league at just 69.9%, and they're being too passive. They're only swinging 43.5% of the time. And when you look at those two things, they should not go together. If you're passive, you should be making contact a lot when you're swinging. But if you're maybe aggressive, maybe those contact rates will go down a little bit. But the Cubs are not swinging a lot, and they're not making contact a lot. That's an issue. And Chris Bryant is like the only guy playing well right now. And I love to see it, but it's kind of a slap in the face because if he's playing well and the team is not playing well, it's kind of common knowledge that the Cubs are going to be looking to trade him. So that's super painful to just think about that. So it's been really rough. I have a lot more stats I could go and talk about, but I don't want to depress myself too much here or bore our listeners too much. But at the end of the day, historically bad start for the Cubs. And Jack, what I ask you, this is a talented group of guys, right? A lot of guys who have a lot of the same guys who won the World Series in 2016, guys who put up good numbers in previous years. What's going on here? What do you think they're going to be able to get out of this? And if so, do you think they can crawl back? And I mean, because there are only 4-6 right now, not too horrible.
Yes. So I'm not worried with the Cubs. I think that, it's very early. They're not in that tough NL East. So I'm not going to overreact to anything. I'm going to try to look on the bright side here.
Thank
and
you.
Chris Bryant has been playing amazing. He's a 1.022 OPS. And obviously we know it's been 2 weeks, but he has 3 home runs, 184 OPS plus. He's playing incredible. And he's a guy who's coming off of, not the best season.
Injuries.
Yeah, injuries, that's true. But also just like when he was playing, he wasn't fully there. Exactly. A lot of that was probably because he was playing hurt.
Love to see him play well.
Yeah, love to see Chris Bryant playing well. So that's definitely a plus for the Cubs. Hopefully the rest of the team can start matching his play and they can be a serious playoff contender. Yeah. You know my feelings on that. Yeah, Sammy has opposite feelings on that.
Chris Bryant is the only player on the Cubs with an OPS over 800. Think about that.
That's not good.
That is not good. And he's
something that we have the same opinion on is how awesome Joe Musgrove was when he threw that no-hitter. Sammy, we were watching that live together on FaceTime. Just run me through a breakdown of your mind. What was going on when you were watching those last couple innings?
Well, I remember it was before you called me, and I got a notification on my phone. It was like probably during the 6th or 7th inning, and Musgrove's thrown a no-hitter. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And I think I either put it on the TV then. I put it on like the 7th, 8th inning. And I mean, it was pretty fun to watch. Once you get to a certain point in these no-hitters, history's coming. You're on the edge of your seat. You're like, oh, wow, we could be watching something here that's really special. And every time the bat hits the baseball, you get scared. You're like, oh my God, is this going to be it? Is this going to be the hit? Oh my God. And that never happened for Musgrove. Nothing fell. There were no hits. Incredible. And Jack already mentioned this before, but a lot of it was that slider. He was very reliant on that. And when you have a pitch that is that good, you can absolutely go ahead and rely on it. Absolutely nasty. I mean, there were a few pitches Jack and I were watching on FaceTime, like he said. I was just like, whew. I mean, tough not to react when you see a pitch that, like you said, looks like it could be thrown with a wiffle ball. Another thing I'd like to mention, former Cub Victor Caratini caught this no-hitter. He has caught 2 straight no-hitters, if you haven't already heard. He caught the last one in MLB, Alec Mills, throwing it in Milwaukee last year as a member of the Cubs. And then he gets traded to San Diego as part of the Yu Darvish deal. And what does he do? He catches Joe Musgrove's no-hitter. And the funny thing is, he missed a perfect game by just one pitch, a hit by pitch. Without that, Joe Musgrove would have had a perfect game, which is obviously even more rare than a no-hitter. So this guy is great. This season has been going fun, really, really well for him. 3 for 48 hitters are against Musgrove this year. So he's having a ton of success. No-hitter, very well-deserved. And Jack, pretty cool that he's like a hometown guy, right? San Diego with the tattoo and everything. Can't hear you.
21st century problems. Microphone was muted, but no, that's very cool. And I wonder, like, there's got to be a stat out here that shows like what percentage of hitters what percentage of pitchers that take a no-hitter like through 6 innings get a no-hitter, because I feel like whenever you see that notification pop up,
You're like,
it's like, you know,
well, I have
like
a similar.
you don't actually think. And once they're in like the seventh inning, like once you see that 7 on the scoreboard, for some reason, I just feel like if I'm watching someone who has a no-hit bid in the seventh, I don't think I've ever seen it getting broken up. I watched
Yeah,
Verlanders.
I actually have a stat to the contrary. The Padres, obviously, this is their first no hitter. 23 Padres pitchers in their history have had at least 7 no hit innings. I
And
mean,
I'm not
think
saying
about
like
that. That is,
obviously like the majority of no hitters do get broken up. I'm just saying it's like, for
yeah,
some reason. It's like for some reason when I was younger, whenever I turn on a Yankees game, Steven Drew would always hit a home run. Steven Drew, I don't think has ever had 20 home runs in a season. But for some reason, whenever I turn on a game, he hits a home run. And that's sort of like what this is.
yeah, but I mean, just watching Musgrove, really fun. And, as the hometown guy, he has the Padres tattoo that he got before he was a member of the Padres because he was a huge fan growing up. And he throws their first franchise no hitter. That's a moment, and I loved watching it. It was fun to kind of be a part of. Something else that's happening that Red Sox fans will be very happy with. They got swept by the Orioles, which is not good to start the season. But since then, they've won 7 straight, including going to Baltimore and getting revenge by sweeping the Orioles. So, Jack, I mean, it's only 7 games, it's early. If the Red Sox keep playing like this, are you going to be a little bit scared? A little bit scared of the Red Sox?
I'm not going to dignify that with a response. So let's move on now. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not going to be scared of the Red Sox. I don't think they don't have the pitching to be good for an extended period of time. They're going to falter soon. JD Martinez is playing out of his mind. He won't be able to keep that up. Their pitching will crack at some point, and they will be straight to the bottom of the division. Now,
See,
Sammy,
I disagree there. I
a
mean,
team. But how do you disagree? Like their pitching is just
I mean,
awful.
their pitching, when you look at it so far this season, has been about average. Which, when I was making my prediction, right, I had the Red Sox winning 86 games. I think that pitching is good enough to
Ridiculous.
scrape average, maybe a little below that. But when you look at this offense, it can really be one of the best in the league. Martinez looks like he can possibly play at an MVP level, and he's not going to keep what he's been doing up, but he's been playing incredible. Christian Vasquez, one of the best offensive catchers in baseball. Verdugo has been cold, but he'll heat up. Rafael Devers has home runs in the last 4 games. Xander Bogaerts. I mean, you look at this offense, has a lot of potential to be very, very good for the Red Sox. And you could have a lackluster pitching rotation, but to win 86 games, to get in the 80s, you don't need a great rotation and a great offense. They have the great offense already. If their rotation can keep them in some games and, be okay, that's all they need. And I think they can do that.
We'll see. We'll see about that. Now, a team that is going in the exact opposite direction as the Red Sox to start the season. Sammy, your Oakland Athletics, should they be worried about their 3-7 start?
I mean, like we said, it's very, very early, and we don't want to get too caught up in a lot of these early numbers, statistics, wins and losses. But I would be a little bit worried if I'm the A's, partly because the Astros have been playing great baseball, and they're looking like they're right back where they kind of were in 2019 before the whole cheating scandal. They have a lot of guys hitting very well, and they're getting pretty good production out of that rotation as well. And if you're Oakland, the thing I'm concerned about is your bullpen, because last year you had one of the best bullpens in baseball. I think a lot due to Liam Hendricks, because when you have an X factor like Hendricks, you can manage that bullpen in a lot of different ways around him. I think that's part of the reason a lot of relievers on the Brewers have success, because they have Josh Hader, and teams really scheme around that, so it gives them more flexibility with their bullpen. Losing Hendricks was crucial. You look, their bullpen's been abysmal. 3rd worst in baseball this year. An ERA over 6, which is outrageously bad. And that was kind of unimaginable last year. They didn't lose that many pieces besides Hendricks. They added Trevor Rosenthal, but Trevor Rosenthal, or they had some new additions as well. So this bullpen has been abysmal for Oakland, and unless that gets turned around, that was the good part of their team last year. This offense is average at best. I think it could get a little too much hype sometimes even. So Oakland's really got to turn it around, especially like I said, with the Astros and even the Angels playing pretty well. So Jack, I'm going to ask you the same question. Are you concerned here with the Oakland Athletics?
No, my stance isn't going to change team to team. It's still early. I'm not energetic enough to be concerned with a team outside of the Yankees this early. With the Yankees, I'm overreacting like crazy. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I'm not going to overreact. Although I will say that the duo of Matt Chapman and Matt Olson might be one of the most underrated duos in all of baseball. Both of them are two of the best fielders in baseball. Both of them have power. They're so fun to watch, and it's a shame that Oakland's not going to be able to keep them.
Oh, and
once they hit free agency.
I just looked it up. Trevor Rosenthal has an illness now, so they're not even going to have him. It could be.
I think he was hurt. He had surgery.
Yeah, he had
or something.
Yeah, he had like some.
It was obscure. Like it wasn't something.
Yeah, not something I've heard of either. But yeah, Oakland. I'm not trying to overreact here, but just with your bullpen, which was the great part of your team, not being as good, that's the concerning part for me. If you can turn that bullpen around, if you get Rosenthal back, that's what you want. But we'll just have to see with Oakland. And now it's time for us to go with our pitchers, players, games, all of that of the week. So I guess we can start with game of the week. Jack, I'll let you start.
Sammy, my game of the week was Sammy, when I say an absolute doozy, I mean it was so fun to watch. And you might be thinking, Sammy, what game am I going to choose?
I think it's going to be a Yankees game here.
Was it a Yankees game?
It has to be a Yankees game.
Sammy, it was a Yankees game. When I say how much I despise this extra innings rule, I hate it so much, even on the wins. But yes, so Sammy, I had the Toronto, or I guess they're in Florida, so I guess the Floridian Blue Jays. I like that. The Floridian Blue Jays versus your New York Highlanders, aka the Yankees. Great game. There was tons of scoring early, and the Yankees pulled away in the end, but the Yankees won 8-4. But for the majority of the game, it was very close, and you kind of feel like, it was like nail biting to the end, and then Rougned Odor had that game-winning single, and then the floodgates just opened. Gio had that hit, or Glaber had that hit. It was just the floodgates open, and the Yankees came out with a victory.
Yeah, I did see some highlights from that game. That seems like a pretty fun one. I'm going to go with, I guess, the obvious here. Padres at Rangers, Musgrove's no-hitter game. Friday, April 9th, Musgrove throwing the first Padres no-hitter in their franchise history, which was incredibly impressive, as we already talked about. Was also a pretty close game. If he lost it for an inning, maybe in the 7th or 8th, maybe gave up like a home run and maybe a double, and this game could have changed. It was like a 3-4 run game the whole time. So a pretty close game the whole time. And for better or for worse, a full crowd of fans. So, yeah, that is my game of the week. I'll go now with my position player of the week. And this guy is the hottest hitter in baseball. Ronald Acuna Jr. is just my MVP pick, by the way, is absolutely tearing it up there. His stat line this week, 11 for 20. And this is as of yesterday. So yesterday's games are not accounted for. But 11 for 20, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 550 average, 571 on base. He's slugging over 1,000. His WOBA is first in the league. And he stole 2 bags, which in the course of a week, you have to think is pretty impressive. So this guy is hitting very well, but especially with 2 strikes, which is not been a strength of him. That's my one flaw with his game is his at-bats are not as good as some other guys like Juan Soto. But so far, he's hitting almost 400 with 2 strikes, which is tied for 11th in Major League Baseball. And he's hitting extra base hits, 3 doubles and a home run with 2 strikes this year. His career, like I said, he's not that good. But if he can make that step and continue hitting well with 2 strikes, this guy's going to be unstoppable because that was really his only weakness that I could think of. He feels like a god. He base runs like a god. He hits for power. He hits for contact. Just sometimes those at bats, hitting with 2 strikes, drawing walks, he's having issues with. He's doing all of those things now this year. So I'm loving what I'm seeing for Acuna, especially considering that he was my MVP pick. So my pick's looking pretty good right now at this point. But yeah, Acuna has been very, very good. And I think the 2-strike approach is really helping him with that.
Yes. So I have Shohei Ohtani for my position player of the week. He hit the hardest ball of the season so far, which have you seen that? That was an absolute laser.
Yeah, it was the same night he threw at the time the hardest pitch for, right? Am I wrong? Right? The hardest pitch for a starting pitcher?
No, I think it was a different night. This was his most recent start. I'm pretty sure it was an absolute laser, but
so you're using him as a position player, not a pitcher.
Not a pitcher. Pitching doesn't count. It's position player of the week. Sammy, guess what this man's WRC plus is?
Oh God, it's probably like 440. No, not actually. It's probably like at least like 150.
216.
Wow, yeah,
that's not bad. It is what you want, Sammy, in a ball player. And he just across the board, getting on base at a high rate, 417 on base percentage, 391 batting average. He has an average exit velo of 90.5. He's been getting insanely lucky. His BABIP is 471.
I disagree though. When you're hitting it 90 miles an hour, that's not luck. Your ball's hitting it hard.
When you're lucky, that still counts for you. It still counts. So
I don't know. I'm
not making predictions here. I'm just making recaps. And right now, he is playing amazing.
Yeah, man. And if he can pitch pretty well too, stay healthy, the Shohei MVP thing is not out of the question. I mean, he has been one of the best hitters in baseball, and the pitching, I don't think he's been quite as good as he wants to be. I think the control is a bit of an issue. I think the stuff is there, obviously. He has some of the best stuff pitching-wise among starting pitchers in the league. So if he can figure out the control and location part of the game, he's already hitting well. I mean, it's going to be scary. Shohei is an absolute beast of a human being. My pitcher of the week, now moving on to pitcher. We already talked about him a lot, but Joe Musgrove is my pitcher of the week. Stat line, 9 innings pitched. Of course, no hits, no runs, 10 strikeouts, and 1 hit by pitch. That's all that separated his outing from being a perfect game. Kind of rough, just 1 pitch. But first no-hitter of 2021, first no-hitter of Padres in the Padres history. And the interesting thing, a lot of guys have that four-seam fastball. That's their, main pitch that they throw. Musgrove is not that. 13.4% of the pitches were four-seam fastball. That is very low comparing him to a lot of other starting pitchers. He's relying a lot on that slider. His slider is really that one pitch he throws, and with a nice cutter and a really solid changeup, goes to the curveball sometimes. And that's really how he got this no-hitter. Jack and I already talked a lot about his slider. Absolutely ridiculous. So much horizontal movement on that thing. It is incredible to watch. And of 71 pitchers to start 2 games thus far, Joe Musgrove is one of 2 to not yet allow a earned run. Lance Lynn is the other pitcher in that category. So both those guys pitching well, but Musgrove with the no-hitter, obviously my pitcher of the week.
Obviously your pitcher of the week, Sammy. And I have Garrett Cole. He pitched 2 games this week, technically 2 games. First game against the Orioles, he went 7 innings, no runs, And in his second game against the Blue Jays, he went 6 innings, 1 run, both great starts. I think he combined for over like 22 strikeouts or something crazy like that. He's just dominant, man. And when he's on, he is so fun to watch.
Oh yeah, it's Garrett Cole.
Oh yeah,
Definitely a Cy Young guy every year. I think he should always be in the conversation to be in the Cy Young. Ever since that ridiculous stretch in, I believe, 2019, he has been almost impossible to hit, and he is doing that again here in 2021. Now we have a fun series coming up this week.
In our series to watch.
Watch the first of many between what is going to be a great rivalry. Dodgers at Padres. This, you got to watch this. I'm going to be watching it. Jack is going to be watching it. You listening, you're going to be watching this game or this series because it's going to be incredible. We're going to see, these are probably the 2 best teams in baseball right now. Musgrove threw a no-hitter. Bauer went like 7 innings with a no-hitter in one of his outings. I mean, hell, these are just, we've talked a lot about how great these teams are, but to see them play each other in a regular season game for the first time, I am so excited. I can't even explain how excited I am.
It's going to be a great series and rivalry, division, 2 of the best teams in baseball, great starting pitching matchups, maybe a pitching duel. Both have explosive offenses, maybe a high-scoring game. Probably going to get both of those in this series. I cannot wait, Sammy. You betcha I'm going to be watching this.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Can't wait.
Oh, yes.
And now it's time for basketball. We're going to be talking some basketball just for a little bit. So first, I'll start off with a 1-minute recap of what has happened this week in the NBA. So a pretty big thing. Hawks have surged to 4th place in the East. I think the beginning of March, end of February, these guys were not even in the top 8 in the Eastern Conference. They are really hot, had a great month of March, are carrying it into April, and they beat Zach LaVine, who put up 50 in Atlanta. Trae Young in that game scores 42. That was rough to watch. I'm a Bulls fan. It's tough to see when someone on your team drops 50 points and you still lose. Another guy who had a big week, Gary Trent, who recently got traded from Portland. He's now in Toronto, or really he's in Tampa because no one's in Toronto right now in terms of professional sports. But he had 44 for the Raptors, and Portland is kind of regretting trading him because he has been really hot lately. And with the Toronto team trying to get into the play-in games, they're the 11th team. You have to be the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference to get into those play-in games. Trent is going to be a huge piece to try and help them get to that level. Another big game, Jason Tatum, the same night LaVine put up 50, he put up 53 for the Celtics, a team that has drastically underperformed, but a team we should not forget about come playoff time because they have a lot of talent, underrated depth, and I would not be surprised to see these guys make a run. The Clippers out there in the Western Conference have been hot, 5 straight wins, and they're right on the Suns' tail for second place. And last night, tough news, I think, around the league for sure. Jamal Murray tears his ACL, a huge blow for the Nuggets. And let's start by talking about that, Jack. How do you think this affects the Nuggets here? Because they're currently the 4th seed in the Western Conference. They want to have that home court advantage, especially in the season where fans are back. It's going to be the first playoff games with fans in the NBA for a while. But now one of your 2 stars goes down. Do you think they can maintain that home court advantage right now, or do you think this is really going to hurt them?
I mean, obviously it's going to hurt them. You're losing Jamal Murray, who is one of the best players, if not the best player on that team.
Not the best. I mean, Jokic
at times
on this team.
No, I mean, like at times, like he has the capability to be the best player on that team at any given moment. And it's just sad. I think this takes them out of the serious playoff contender picture.
Well, I mean, they're the 4th seed right now in the West.
I'm not saying that they're not going to make the playoffs or be a high seed in the playoffs, but I can't see them making a deep title run without Jamal Murray.
Yeah, and especially with the Clippers, like I talked about, who are really heating up. Paul George is playing really good basketball right now. But and if the Lakers get LeBron or AD back sooner than later, because the Lakers are right behind the Nuggets, they may fall out of home court advantage, and that's rough for the Nuggets. I mean, I think Jokic is obviously a guy who can do a lot by himself, but a lot of the reason we see his assist numbers so good is because he has another just top tier, high quality scorer in that offense. I mean, there are really a lot of them when you think about it over there in Denver, but this is a big blow. Nuggets fans, there's no beating around the bush here. It is rough to see. And Jack, with the Atlanta Hawks, do you think they're going to hear? We talked about the fourth seed in the West. They are currently the fourth seed in the East. Are you surprised by this? Were you kind of expecting it all along? Because we did talk about when making our NBA season predictions a few months back, we were kind of talking about the Hawks could be a surprise, maybe eighth or seventh seed. But here they are sitting with home court advantage in the East. So, what are your thoughts here on the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah, so when we were making our predictions, I don't think anybody expected the Atlanta Hawks to be there. You know,
Yeah.
it's just it's one of those things where you look up in the standings a couple months in and you're like, huh, the Hawks. It wasn't like a hot take team. They were just there. Like they were just there.
Oh yeah, man, and they're a fun team to watch, and they're not one of those like contender teams, title contender teams in the Eastern Conference, but I'd love to watch them and see them maybe take down the 76ers or the Nets or the Bucks. I would enjoy seeing that for sure. But now we talk some basketball. It is time to move on to the NFL. Julian Edelman announced, well, first he gets cut by the Patriots, but then we later learned that it's just kind of the whole deal for him to retire. Hall of Famer or not? What is your take?
He's not a Hall of Famer. That is all that needs to be said. We're moving on from this discussion because this infuriates me when people think that Julian Edelman is a Hall of Famer. He was a great player. He was a great player. He's going to be in the Patriots Ring of Honor. He's going to get fitted for that nice red jacket that they have in the Ring of Honor. That's fine. I'm fine with that. I love watching Julian Edelman, one of the greatest postseason wide receivers of all time. However, if you compare him with some of the biggest like Hall of Fame snubs of all time from the wide receiver position, his statistics don't even come close to matching some of those Herschel Walker guys.
Yeah. Now, I agree with you in the fact that his stats are not Hall of Fame level, but the winning. I mean, when you think about it, he is out of wide receivers, and obviously he had a lot of help, Belichick and Brady, and some great defenses over the years. But he was a part of a lot of winning teams. So I think Hall of Fame, that's a huge factor. Guys who win a lot in terms of the regular season and, winning the Super Bowl, which Edelman has done both throughout the course of his career. So I agree with you that the stats are not there in terms of Edelman being a Hall of Famer. But I think if he's a Hall of Famer, it's just going to be because he was a part of some legendary teams, a lot of them really, and did a lot of winning during his time in the NFL.
Yes, winning does account for a lot, but you still have to have the statistics to back it up, and they're just not there for him right now. Now, I mean, the Cardinals must have an obsession with getting running backs that are good because James Conner, what a transition by me, by the way. I was thinking of something in my head. I mean, that's a tremendous job right there. But no, but James Conner going to the Cardinals, Conner to the Cardinals, some alliteration there to spice up your day. What do you think about this move?
I'll say I'm not in love with it. They're not spending a fortune on him, so I'm not like a huge critic of what this move is. But when you look at last year's stats and his past few years, he had a great year when Le'Veon Bell got hurt. I believe it was 2018. But last year, 721 yards, only 4.3 per carry, which isn't horrible, but it's average. And I think for the Cardinals, they can't expect anything more than a pretty average running back out of James Conner. And we also have to remember that he had some pretty damn good lines in Pittsburgh. So that was a huge factor. And he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's a strong running back, which I think helps. Maybe if you don't have the best O-line, but he did have a lot of help from some great Pittsburgh O-lines. So I don't think we should be expecting him to be great in Arizona, but with an offense that has been really building something special over the past few years, he's a nice piece that'll fit in. This is not going to be a run-first offense. We're going to have to remember that. They're going to be able to be dangerous from the rushing side of the ball, but they have great receivers and a really solid quarterback. And now after adding J.J. Watt and with Chandler Jones, a really good defense. So Cardinals, this is a nice complimentary move, but nothing incredible on my account.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, it's a good move. It's not a great move, but let's move on now to your favorite segment of the day, my favorite segment of the day, Ori's favorite segment of the day. Wish he was with us today, but I'm going to fill in for him on Ori's Amazon product of the day. And boy, do we have a doozy for you tonight, Sam.
Doozy. Jack's
I will give you one guess to guess what it is.
Wow. I don't know if I could get the whole Craig Kimbrel level that you were at earlier in this episode.
No, that was like some mind reading stuff right there.
Is it animal related?
No.
Oh, not animal related?
Okay. That was your one guess, Sammy.
All right, that was my one guess. Too bad.
You lose, but no, but it is a potato face. So this website, it's $15. Well, it's actually $20, but they're having a sale right now. So it's $15.
Get it while you can, everybody.
Get it while it's hot. And you send in a photo to this website, and they mail you back a perfectly edible potato with that photo on it. How many stars would you guess that this product has?
It's actually on Amazon.
It is actually on Amazon.
That's high quality. 5 stars.
Telepathic right there. 5 freaking stars right there. I mean, really? Is that not a great product or what?
So it takes a picture that you send in and it puts it on a potato that you can eat.
Yes.
Wow. I like that. That's a good present and a good gift. If you have, an uncle that lives in Idaho or a good friend who's a big potato fan.
Yeah, who knows? You might have a friend who's a big potato fan.
No, I like the product, Jack. I have to say, a very good product if you're a fan of potatoes.
Great product here, Sammy. And unfortunately, we will have to say goodbye to you guys for now. Sammy, any last words before we end the 62nd episode of Chatter? Is it?
Oh, 61st, I believe.
61st, you believe?
Yeah,
Any last words?
Another fun episode, as always. I don't know if you guys noticed a little Easter egg, but I'm joined by Michael Scott in the back wearing a mask.
Oh yeah, when you get that.
My birthday was recently, and shout out to my good friend from Texas. Yeah, he got me a cardboard cutout of Michael Scott because he was the one who introduced me to The Office, which is like my favorite show. So yeah, he's chilling back there with his mask on, and yeah, so
he's taking proper COVID precautions.
Yeah, he's taking proper COVID protocols, unlike a lot of people, unfortunately. So yeah, another fun episode, and
as always,
and yeah, as always,
I'm
like Christopher Russo with that. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you were running out of. You were running.
I was running out of air.
I
may have.
What?
My lungs may have exploded.
Anyway, Great episode.
Fun episode.
Love you guys as always. Check out the socials. Chatter from the Cheap Seats on Instagram. Chatter_Cheap Seats pod on TikTok. And leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. That is it for now. Sammy, take us out.
Bye.